Welcome to ARCH Talks, a video podcast series that explores the trends, challenges, and evolutions of the workplace. I'm your host, Monique Pothoff. I'm a Franco-American workplace strategist that works out of Paris. I help clients understand their needs and develop strategies that assist creating the ideal workplace for them. In a moment, I will introduce to you our sponsors from the Franco-British Chamber of Commerce and ARCH.DESIGN. The reason we partnered to do this podcast was to provide a platform for small to medium businesses in Paris that want to have their voice be heard, and also to provide insights to clients and peers. Catherine, you're up.
Thank you, Monique. I'm Catherine Yawon, the General Manager of the British Chambers of Commerce in France, or Franco-British Chamber. Today our mission is still to promote Franco-British trade and more precisely to assist our members to develop and promote their business within that Franco-British business community. We have been having members for more than 100 years, and today ARCH.DESIGN and GLEADS are members of the Chamber, and we are delighted to be here.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Monique, for setting this up. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I'm Stéphane Pic, co-founder at ARCH.DESIGN. I would like to start by saying that today businesses are facing a challenge, which is bringing people back to the office. And the office plays an important part in supporting the culture of the company. And it really influences how people work. We want a world where the workplace really serves as a tool for the company and inspires the people. I truly believe that a well-designed workplace, or you might say a dynamic workplace, is a place where people really love to come to. We work as a team to understand the culture of the company we work for, and we align with their expectations and objectives. And my role is to set this team together and make it happen.
Thank you so much. Thomas and Kevin, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Kevin Braund, English by birth, been in France 25 years, so I've also got French nationality. I work for GLEADS France. I'm country director since 2 years, and have been working with GLEADS for 14 years. And we do project and cost management and technical due diligence for investors.
Thank you, Kevin. My name is Thomas. Thank you for hosting me in this very nice opportunity to introduce myself and introduce my business. So I'm a technical engineer for now more than 20 years, and I'm really focusing on client representative and project management project for all the clients abroad, and actually in France and in Western Europe, especially for UK and US based company who wants to stay here or who wants to come in France and in Europe. Due to our differences in terms of cultures, we have many challenges to just focus on and make our client also focus on their day-to-day businesses. So I created my own company 9 years after being at CBRE as a head of project in Western Europe. So I'm definitely proud and happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So when I was putting this podcast together originally, I thought, what were clients having concerns about during projects? What were some of the issues, surprises that came up? And I thought it could be pretty valuable to discuss those things so people doing projects in the future could know these things ahead of time. So let's dive into the questions, and you guys need to take turns. So
we won't fight.
Exactly. So the first question is, what are the biggest challenges regarding cultural differences, for example, between France and an English-speaking country, in your opinion?
Expectations. So we work with a lot of international clients, and when they come to France, they think it's going to be like it is in their country, whether it's UK, America, Middle East. And when things are different, and ultimately construction is construction, but when there's things that do go differently, it's not like that where we are. And so I think people just need to have that thought in their head that when they're coming into another culture, whether it's into France or from France to the UK or into the Middle East, wherever, cultures are different, and you need to be adaptable in how you see things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything has been, just said. Just engaging people as well, because when you were doing a project in France with a UK based or an American based company, French people are just expecting, as you can say, something else. And we know that human being is afraid of any change in any things that can change their work, their day-to-day work. So actually, I think the main important thing when you manage a project here in France is to engage people, to make them being the owner of the project, to own the project. And then you will have, all people coming with you at 100% confident. Yeah.
And maybe on a more basic ground, I would say that when you come to France or ever, you have first to learn to prepare yourself. Because it's not because you speak English or you speak French that you understand French or English. Yeah. There is a big difference between the comprehension and the speaking, and that's very important. Linguistic code. If I take a very simple example, in Britain, if you meet someone because you want to sell them something and they say it is interesting, it's a no.
Yeah.
100%.
They're very polite.
Very polite.
Yeah.
And very important to know, because there is no way, in British people will never say no directly. They have many ways of letting you know.
You're making me laugh too much.
Yeah.
Very gently that they are not interested. So that's very important. You prepare yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's the cultural subtleties, right? It's not exactly language, it's also the attitude, the expectation behind what's being said, and all of that. What do you think are some strengths, though, that come from the cultural differences? How can a project be stronger by, say, the French way of doing things or the Anglophone way of doing things?
Obviously, we have a kind of aura, when you are French designer or French project manager or French something, French chef or anything with the word French, people are expecting you to have very high level, understanding of things and understanding of
a certain finesse.
A certain finesse. Yeah, exactly.
French touch.
Yeah, exactly. The French touch. So this is one of the strengths when you are doing project here in France for another company which is not French. And the second thing is I think the social background of having a non-French company in France. Is the biggest, I think it's the biggest added value when you have, American, decision circuit based in the US. You have the facility management in the UK, as it seems to be now more and more when you have the EMEA headquarters, EMEA structure. The facility management, project management is based in the UK. And you have then the office manager in France, and you have the final users in France. So all these, mix of background, mix of culture, I think it's the best added value you can have to show your project is a success.
Yeah, there's a lot of shareholders to take care of and consider.
Yeah, exactly.
If I may use the word interesting, I think it's very interesting to work for international companies.
Yeah.
Because working for French companies, they tend to have a more traditional or long range view, long range outlook in their office in terms of design, which is a safe approach. But I find working with international companies kind of broadens your outlook. So it's quite interesting. I remember working for a Chinese company, and they liked our design process because we had to understand their culture, and at the same time we had to translate it into the local codes. And I think this is a very cool part of our job, is to understand the company and at the same time create a workplace where people like to come to in France.
Absolutely. And how have you, all on the panel, dealt with overcoming the challenges with the cultural differences? Because sometimes we don't know, right? Like if you have a client in China, you've never worked with anyone from China, how do you deal with that?
Communication.
Yeah, communication.
In both directions. So it's the French side, you need to talk to them and get them to understand what the client is thinking and what he's saying. So when a client comes from the UK and says something, the French architect or the French contractor will interpret that in one way. As someone that's lived in both cultures, you understand more. It's a bit like Catherine saying about, very interesting. You understand more what someone's saying.
Yes.
And the fact that I think because, and I think we've all worked in different cultures, you can cross lots of barriers.
Yes.
And you can then communicate. And one of the things with in construction with the French, the client will come along and say, I want to put a door there. And the first reaction often from a French designer will be, oh no, you can't do that. But they will go away and in the week they will look at it and say, oh yeah, actually you can, and they'll come back. Yeah. Whereas a UK based architect will go, oh yes, we can do that. Yeah. And then a week later they say, oh no, sorry, we can't.
Just to add on that, it's because the way we are thinking is not the same. The French are very Cartesian, so when you tell them something, they have to, as engineers, they are thinking about, that's why they are always a bit pessimist and not optimistic. Because they are already thinking to all the barriers they might have faced. Exactly. Then the British or the American or the Anglo-Saxon will say, yes, let's go. As you rightly say, exactly.
They're more pragmatic.
And that's how, if you look at the tunnel, it was very interesting because the two teams, French and British, started at the same time. The first fortnight, the British did 14 kilometers. The French hadn't started yet. They arrived at the same time, exactly when they should have. So it means that it's not because the way is different that you don't reach the objective. But that's what you have to understand when you want to work on the Franco-British, French and British. But I think that's for almost any countries.
Absolutely. And I think being a service provider, it's also about managing expectations and explaining the why behind everything. Because I remember I had a client in California and he was working with a team here in France and he kept asking me, why aren't they responding to me? Why aren't they responding to me? And the answer was, well, we don't have an answer yet. And that is really a huge cultural difference where the French do that. They don't respond if there's no response. Whereas an American would expect you to say, I don't have an answer yet, but I will get back to you.
ASAP.
Subtle, but definitely, once you manage that, it's less of an issue. It takes the pressure off. The team can work the way they need to.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so communication is key.
Yes. Absolutely.
Providing the information, and so the client can check the information, where the status of the project as the project goes. It's so important.
And above communication, transparency.
Absolutely.
Being transparent, in front of challenges, issues, because in all the projects you will have issues, you'll have challenges, technical, regulatory, everything can happen on the project. So if you communicate with transparency, everything will be easier to understand and accept, even if it is something quite complicated, especially when you're hitting the budget due to a technical issue.
And I think it's also about coming to the client with solutions ready when you might not have exactly what they were asking for because it was impossible for some reason, and saying, well, this isn't going to work, however, we have A, B, and C that we can do.
This door, the famous door.
Yes, the door. Precisely.
To say we can't install it there, but we can do it right here.
So obviously doing projects from abroad is not very simple or easy. What motivates you to do projects internationally?
It is difficult.
We like challenges.
No, I mean we like working for. It's so interesting to work for different countries. It's different cultures, and you learn a lot. I mean, even for a staff, it's a rich experience. It's quite a rewarding experience even for the personal development of the staff. And personally, I like to see how other people work in other countries and bring some new ideas back.
Absolutely, innovation.
Yeah. Totally agree. It's the cultural differences, meeting different cultures, and we actually in project management you like the challenge.
Exactly.
A project that goes right is boring. And so having a different culture and the whole challenge thing is great.
Yeah. And also this is using to work for a great company, huge company with many clients everywhere in Europe or throughout the world is also something quite exciting, because I keep this excitement since I left CBRE, because I was part of a European team. So dealing with project managers in Switzerland, dealing with project managers in Germany, in Belgium, and their approach is totally different, based on the person you have in front of you discussing the project. So this is also quite exciting to have this kind of approach, saying, oh, okay, what story do I need to tell him today? Because I'm pretty sure that he will not understand it as I understand it, actually, being the local.
Well, and I think sometimes with at least for Americans, what I've heard is that they have the expectation that all Europeans are going to work in the same way.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not the case.
No.
I would say the Germans work much differently than the French. So yeah, absolutely. So if a client wants to work, let's say, with their own contractors from their respective country, how does that work in France?
There's certain regulations they need to come within. So if a contractor, I've recently been looking at a project where their client wants to use Irish contractors. They either have to come and work under an existing body that's here, or they've got to set up a company here. Yes. And they've got to meet the local, the work regulations and all those sort of elements. It's definitely possible, but you just need to jump through certain hoops. Yeah.
So it's kind of an administrative
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say, in terms of contractors working on site, because in France you've got the 10-year guarantee on certain elements, I would not recommend a client to use people for structure and the MEP.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at an office or a building or whatever, and you're talking about finishes, plasterboard walls, plastering, all that sort of thing.
Painting,
then it's fine, there's no problem. Yeah. But because you do have certain guarantees and insurances, and also understanding the codes, because the codes, they're very similar, but you've got to understand the French and you've got to understand it. Yeah. It just is more sensible in the long run, even if it's not necessarily as cheap as they would like to be.
And there's less problems in the future.
Exactly. Fully agree. Yeah.
So if you could all give one key piece of advice to someone who is thinking of moving an office to Paris or renovating an office in Paris, what would you say?
Choose the right partner.
And I would say the earlier we are in the project, the better it will be.
And to come to the chamber to find the right So you see?
So just employ us,
and
then
just
you'll be
employ
fine.
And then you're gonna focus on your day-to-day basis, and that's fine.
Yeah. Well, my advice would be close to that, but it would also be think about your project before it's even a project. Because by the time you've thought of it as a project, it's too late. You're rushing. You're not really thinking methodically about how you're doing things, and you're not taking the time to assess and really go through the process in a long and thought out way. That would definitely be my advice. I've been trying to push that out for years. So.
And see if the person understands you. As you said, does he understand you?
Yes.
Because it's so important. I mean, the starting of a project is so important. It's about relationships.
Yeah. Sure.
That's how it.
Agreed.
So the first thing is, does he understand me?
And the other thing in France, the intuitive persona is very important. It's not who you are, it's who you know. And with whom you're going to work. That's very important, to choose the right partner.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important to be aligned on all of the different aspects. Culturally speaking, if you're working with a company that is more social and you're more driven, for example, it's not, Kevin's laughing because he's agreeing, I think. It doesn't necessarily work out, and it doesn't mean that anybody's right or wrong or otherwise. It just means that you're not on the same page. So I think the whole period of what I call matchmaking between the company and the service provider is super important.
I call it assessment.
Assessment,
Yeah, that's assessment.
That doesn't sound very romantic for
Yeah,
French point of view.
that's for my engineer part, that's it. My engineer brain is speaking actually, so that's why. Assessment, risk management. And again, transparency.
So how do you all decide that it's a good match with certain clients? How do you assess that exactly?
This is going to be romantic then. Feeling.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chemistry.
Chemistry, feeling. At the end of the day, we're talking about people. So even if we're talking about £1 million, $1 million, €1 million, million. No, I forget all the currencies.
Yen.
We're talking about people, users, and you can have the best solution that you can propose to your client. If it is not matching between you and your client in front of you, I mean, if you are not understanding each other, you will never get the project. That's my feeling. That's my feeling.
I agree.
It's feeling. It's when you're communicating. If you can understand each other and you can communicate, you can get through things.
We've been through many RFPs in my previous life when we were really, just checking all the boxes. Everything was green, but at the end, the client said, I didn't understand. I was not feeling very comfortable with your project manager you want to put on this project. Can I ask a favor, or can I ask for another project manager? I say, yeah, but you just discussed with him 5 minutes. Yeah, but I didn't feel it right.
He knew already.
Can you just,
we've had exactly the same.
Yeah, that's it. And then that's not a problem with the project itself, that's not a problem with the technical solution, that's not a problem for the finance, but that's the problem of persons. So the more you're comfortable with what you're saying and how you're feeling in front of your client, the better it will be.
Well, I think part of that is the prospecting, right? So when you have the new business development and sales people going out looking for clients, they have to kind of know what the personalities are and to be able to match it up, because it can go very wrong and you can invest a lot of time in trying to get a project and it doesn't work out.
And also I would say educating clients. Not in the wrong the wrong side of the word, but we also expecting to educate our clients. Because having a client who is really demanding is not maybe the right solution. So we need to, throughout the communication, to educate our client.
So it's having a process, and you explain it to the customer.
Explain to the client.
Well, and just to remind them that everybody's on the same team.
Exactly.
It's not them versus us. It's we're all together in this. We all want it to be successful.
And in terms of assessment, maybe find a company that has already done jobs for international companies and has maybe jobs in a variety of sectors. I think it's important that, and also someone that is maybe proactive in his approach. He's able to find solutions. He's able to de-risk the project. I think it's key so the project is a success then.
Flexibility as well.
Yeah, kind of having the foresight of things that could potentially come up, like supply chains being slowed down.
Supply chain issues. There's so many challenges currently. With the,
and this is a good point for us, small companies in front of majors, pure playing companies. Because actually we've noticed a trend, of having small companies, because they are flexible, they are dealing more easily with their supply chains issues, and especially in this current situation actually. So So
we're
this
just more
is
agile.
right? We're just definitely more agile.
100%.
We're selling them the agile workplace, but we also agile on how we're dealing with the project.
Certainly.
Well, and I think an advantage of being smaller businesses is you can, you know, not to use the word again, but I will, match make a whole team. So like you don't get limited to a certain team in a large company.
Yeah.
You're able to kind of select
Yeah.
the individuals that fit best
More
to
free.
the project and the client.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So as you can see, managing a project from abroad is difficult, but definitely not impossible. It requires the right team of people to come together and make it happen, understanding the intricacies behind each culture and coming together as a team. For more information on any of the topics we discussed today, feel free to reach out to this email address. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much. Merci et à bientôt.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Thank you.
Bye.